and welcome you all to our professional development workshop showcasing authentic problem-based learning and assessment in online courses. And we're pleased to have Jordan Ellsworth, who is the Utah Tech Online Learning Design Project Manager, to facilitate our workshop today. Online learning has been a focus of the university for a few years now. But what does that really mean in an online learning environment? And so in this workshop, we'll look at some examples, share some ideas on how to bridge the gap between the online classroom and the workplace. And without further ado, we'll turn the time over to Jordan.
Thank you for being here, everybody. Just as a quick FYI, I will have to leave about 10 minutes early, so we'll wrap this up early enough that if you have a 1 o'clock something, you should have plenty of time to get there. I have to get something at 1 o'clock, so it won't be terribly long, but hopefully it'll be useful for everyone here. So just if we could we do a quick introduce yourself, since there's a few of us here? I think we have a few, a small enough group that we could kind of introduce ourselves and why we're interested in this workshop today. That'd be helpful for me. So I'm Jordan Ellsworth, Learning Design Project Manager with Utah Tech Online. And maybe we'll go, Melissa, you're next to me. So do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa LeBlanc, and I am teaching. This is my first time teaching part-time as an adjunct professor. I am teaching leadership and dynamics right now with population health. And then I will also be teaching economics and health policies in the spring and in the summer.
Very cool. So you're working with Tiffany Vickers over there? Or?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. That's great. Welcome, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead with Shauna. Do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Hi, I'm Shauna White. I am an associate professor in the English department and also the director of general education.
Sweet. Carrie?
Yes, I forgot to introduce myself. Oh, did we say Terry?
Oh, sorry. I said Carrie, but let's do Carrie and then Terry. How about
that? Sorry.
You're good.
So I'm Carrie McHouston. I'm a graduate assistant in the English department in the Technical Writing and Digital Rhetoric program. And I am very interested in higher education and online teaching.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Terry. Sorry.
I'm Dr. Terry Brandenburg. I'm the manager of quality and training for Utah Tech Online.
Great. And then I see your D number, but I don't see your name.
Yeah, so my name is Sanya Pantovic, and I'm academic advisor for nursing. I have some experience in online teaching, and I was hoping that you will have something interesting for us today.
Great. I'll try. Hopefully I can meet that hope. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, I'm Brett Lunsford. I am the one-stop service manager for our adult and online students, so kind of the customer service side of that. But I also am teaching adjunct for communications and looking to maybe do some online teaching with that. So here for both of those reasons, really.
Sweet. And then Huck, I don't know if you're in a place you can just introduce yourself real quick, but.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Huck Stewart. I'm the learning design manager here at Utah Tech Online, and I just love supporting these presentations and getting to see and meet some of the faculty that attend. So.
Thanks, Huck. Cool. Well, it's nice to get to know a little bit of you. We got people from English, people from health administration. Is that what it's? Yeah, population health, nursing. So from all over. So this is great. Hopefully, I'm hoping we can kind of brainstorm a little bit today, some ideas. I don't claim to have a monopoly on all good ideas for online teaching. So I'm hoping that you guys will be able to help me generate some ideas. But I do have some recommendations and some experiences that I can share that hopefully will give some insight into that. So first things first, let me share my screen here. Here we go. Okay. You guys see that okay? All right. So the topic for today is authentic problem-based learning online. And I am very passionate about this topic because that's one of the reasons I'm here, is because I wanted to improve education to make it better than what I was given, which wasn't bad. I mean, I was given a great education and I continue to try to learn and apply my skills, but I do want to make it better for the next group that comes around, to make it more applicable to life, to make it more useful in our careers, while still having that that broad scope that we get from an education in higher ed, from an undergraduate degree or graduate school, whatever it is. Being able to fit our piece into the broader whole, to me, is one of the best benefits of an education of higher ed, right? Where as opposed to just skill specific things or other kinds of training, we get to kind of learn how our piece fits into the greater whole, which I think is a huge asset. So one of the ways I wanted to improve that learning, I still am looking for ways to do it, is to make things more authentic. Now, what does authentic mean? Maybe I'll ask you guys, what does authentic mean when you say that? It has a lot of meanings in our time, but what does authentic mean to you guys? What do you think of when you think of authentic?
I think of being genuine, whole, involves everything.
Yeah, definitely being genuine. That's one of the things I think of as well. Anything else? What else comes to mind when you think of authenticity or authentic? Being genuine. Oh, I don't know. I have all my slides showing, so let me actually present this so that you can see it in large. Here's some of the definitions from Merriam-Webster. I don't know do people even look up the dictionary anymore? I feel like you just Google it or something and take the first one. But if you had a paper dictionary, this is what it would tell you. Worthy of acceptance or belief as conforming to or based on fact. Conforming to an original so as to produce essential features. That would be more like authentic, historical artifacts or something, I'm assuming. But the ones that I like the most are not false or imitation, real, actual. And there's nothing that drives students more crazy than having a problem that's not real, at least in my mind, from my perspective as a student. Not false or imitation, real, actual. And then, as you mentioned, Melissa, true to one's own personality, spirit, or character, genuine. So I think I love this word for a lot of reasons, for all its meanings, but especially for that feeling of it being real or not false or not meaningless, but meaningful and having impact, right? Being real so think about that as we're kind of talking about this, but that's an important part of online learning, in my opinion. Okay, and then that coupled with problem-based. I stole this off of, I'm trying to remember the website, a renowned instructional design website, and I liked the way they worded it, so that's why I chose it. But let's see if I can find the name of it so you can trust it even more. Oh, it's being used to present right now. But we talk about problem-based learning, PBL. How many of you have done research with that or learned about problem-based learning or have used problem-based learning in your teaching? Anybody?
I have.
Okay, cool.
I've done a similar concept in language instruction,
Okay.
kind of with communicative language teaching, where you're teaching students based on how do they navigate a particular scenario or like effective communications. You're focusing on like a task or a problem, essentially.
Yeah, great. I love that. Yeah, a task or a problem and kind of that being the center of how you go about learning, right? I love this as well. If I were to pick my two favorite things, well, maybe the third one would be prototyping. But my three favorite ways of going about learning would be making it authentic, making it problem-based, which problem-based kind of implies group work, which is another one. And then last of all, being able to iterate on something. Because sometimes I feel like we just throw an essay out there or we throw something out there and we think it's going to be the best version of it the first time we throw it out there. This isn't true. In English, you do a lot of times drafts, right? Which are so important, right? Having those drafts in there and having multiple times to go over things. But having the ability to iterate over our work is so important. So I love this because they said the problem is what drives, let me go back one. The problem is what drives the motivation and learning. And that to me is the crux of all of this. Authenticity combined with problem-based learning, they kind of intersect in that they provide the motivation for learning. I have a couple examples that I'll show you, but I'm sure as you're thinking about this, feel free to share experiences you've had with this type of thing where the problem being solved and the context it was being solved in was so authentic and real that it was extremely motivating to do good work. Does anybody have anything that comes to mind right now when they think about that? Something that you were really motivated to finish in a learning experience?
I have an experience. I don't know if it's what we're talking about, but we had when I was attending school here, I was in a film class. I was in a lighting class, and we actually were working on a project for Washington County. So it was the problem was actually real, right? We had X amount of dollars we could spend, so we had to come up with our class was assigned with the professor's assistants to budget for the whole production for this real, and so we had like a real budget. It was a real contract, and so we had to, that was a very real situation where it was pretty motivating for us because we felt the pressure of being, real clients and all of that. So
that's sweet. Yeah, you don't want to overspend and have people mad about it costing too much. Anybody else? That was a good example, Brett.
Yeah, I have one, Jordan.
Go for it.
Yeah, when I was doing my master's in law, we would break out into groups and we would do mock trials. So we would get a case that had already been presented, but we didn't know the outcome of that. So we had to work together as a team to bring all the evidence together and do the research and then come to a conclusion together. And
nice.
we were set up either as the defendant or the plaintiff. So it showed that we could really, focus on, what the case was and, ask questions and just develop a theory of what was going on and then try to solve it.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. And I guess one step further would be a case that's currently going on, but you probably wouldn't have access to documents in that case. But that's about as close as you can get if you don't know the outcome of the case. So that's really cool. I like that. And going as if to solve it for the first time. So that's awesome. Great. So I think you've all had some kind of experience with that, but it makes such a big difference. And I'm seeing that in the work I'm doing with students right now, that it makes such a big difference when the solution being developed is actually going to be applied at some point, right? Because then they don't feel comfortable just letting it slide, right? Or doing half effort work, right? Because then they're like, it's going to have to actually be applied and we're going to see how it goes. So big point there. So I just have a few experiences I want to share. Hopefully they're not boring and hopefully they're helpful for context and insight. This is my engineering capstone team. My undergraduate degree was in mechanical engineering. And although most of our work was done face-to-face, so the way this works for this particular program, you have a capstone at the end of your bachelor's degree, right? It's like your last year, it lasts a year, 2 semesters. You have a capstone project and companies in the industry, so engineering companies come to you and they get assigned a team of engineers, and then you have a mentor who's Jeff in this picture, mentor from the school, and then you have the employees from the representatives from the engineering company that you're working with. And in our case, since the engineering company was like in California, we had to work with them remotely online for all of our stuff. So we had to kind of develop our solution, send them pictures, send them reports, so many reports and so many pictures. And then they would kind of give us feedback and say, hey, we wish you do this a little bit more. We'd meet with them over Zoom, whatever we could do. But it basically was online. It was basically online problem solving that we were doing with the other group. And it worked really well, actually. I mean, we had to be a little more intentional about how we communicated what we had done, especially since we were making an actual physical, product machine thing. But it actually worked really well. How many of you know somebody who works fully remote right now or are working fully remote yourselves? How many of you have worked remotely before? Okay. So it's just a different world right now. To say that group work online is too hard and can't be done and we should avoid it, is just ignoring the fact of the current landscape, of the working landscape. Like it's changed. Remote work is here to stay. And so being able to interact and come up with solutions with people in an online environment is so crucial. So that's one example. I wish I'd put a picture in here of what we actually developed. Anyway, you guys don't probably care, but we made an airplane bathroom door. We made a new design for that. And if you guys have ever seen the Jacob's Ladder toy, you know, the one where you fold it over and it kind of, the pieces of fabric fold the thing over and it can bend, but it like bends both ways. We kind of did it that way, and ended up getting a patent on it and stuff. And it actually was a really, really cool senior project. And to be part of something like that as a student was really cool to me. And it brought out of me, I feel like, my best effort. So it just is different when there's a problem to be solved that actually needs a solution and it's going to be applied. Like it makes students actually work hard. So that's experience number one. Experience number two, I actually don't have in here in the slides, but I did want to share it. In fact, I have it pulled up here. I don't know if I have a picture of everybody, but let me just, can you guys see my screen still? Whoops, I stopped it before I asked. I think you probably could see it. You see this? Okay, so this is my master's degree 2 years later, which was blended. It was like a blended master's degree. I was there in person with but honestly, it could have been done online. And in fact, as I was finishing up my master's degree, April 2020 hit. And what happened in April 2020? Actually, March 2020. What happened in March 2020? Everything went remote, right? COVID hit and everyone went remote. So we basically finished out this project fully remote, but we were pretty much halfway there anyway. So this company, Smarter Parenting, helps parents with children that have ADHD and other behavior issues or disabilities that they're working through. And so they help teach these parents how to work with their children. So we met with the representative, the CEO of Smarter Parenting via Zoom, like, you know, every few weeks or whatever. And then on, how many of you have used Asana, the project management software? Anybody? Or Monday.com or any other project management software? Anybody? Basically, you're just sharing tasks and messaging each other how to finish something. So we used that and came up with a course. We built a course together online of that could teach parents how to deal with their ADHD children's behaviors and respond more positively to that. So it was a really cool experience to be able to work with other students in my program to do that. Now, I know both of these are higher level learning examples, but I think it can apply to lower level learning as well. Any other experiences before I move on? I wanted to share one other thing, but what experiences have you thought of as I've been sharing this? What positive online, especially online experiences, if not then in-person experiences, have you had working in a team, working on an actual problem, and coming out, you feel like, with some skills and some ideas and some products that you didn't have before?
Well, Sean, I just wanted to, Jordan, I just wanted to mention that when I was talking about this law class that I did and we split up into groups, that was online. So everybody was in a Zoom session in groups. And so we worked like that for several weeks online.
Very cool. Okay, so you did actually do a lot of that online. That's pretty sweet. Very cool. Yeah, go ahead. I forgot your name already.
It's Sanya. So I used to work for in Nevada for a elementary public school remotely during the pandemic. And I did a lot of projects. Everything was online, meetings, assignments, 100% online. But I assigned a lot of real life projects for elementary students. And I do believe the challenge that I was trying to overcome all the time was to create connected online community. That was the biggest challenge for me. And I do believe I was successful in that because at the very end, they were sharing the prizes, homework passes and everything. Like they actually spend a lot of time in person together. But creating connected community was the biggest challenge for me.
That is a good point. Yeah. Creating that, and I think it's related, honestly. I think that if there's something meaningful to connect over, it helps a lot, right? I mean, you do have to have a way for them to make that community, but how did you establish that community?
So I would definitely have like daily kindness, sharings, polls that will include hands-on activities, voting, writing messages to each other, and then giving away prizes, homework passes, and fudge points for assignments, but saying you can keep it for yourself or you can share it with anyone from the class.
Wow.
And I was just getting goosebumps when they just start giving away. Homework pass is not like easy to get. So having a homework pass and being willing to share with a classmate that you were just like spending time online was really hard. But yes, they were just sharing homework passes and everything they were getting. So that was really nice to see. It is possible. It's not easy. It is possible though.
That's really cool. I'd never heard of something like that. That sounds like a great way to have them be interested in each other's lives and yeah, form that sense of community. That's really cool. So I guess my question to add to that is, once you have a community, how do you get them to band together around a common problem? And maybe that's what you're here to.
I mean, Shauna can certainly speak more to this than me because I'm just teaching 1010 and I'm teaching 1010D and 2010 next semester. That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out is, you know, because I'm teaching writing and composition, I have to try to figure out ways that I could apply that. And as a new teacher, I don't have a lot of ideas for that yet. But I do have experience in higher levels, like I will be doing an advocacy project next semester for my technical writing and digital rhetoric program. But yeah, I don't quite know how to engage the 100 level or not, well, thousands and 2000 level students in that. So I'll definitely be open to options and looking to incorporate that.
Very cool. So what, could you explain a little bit about the advocacy project? Would you mind just explaining? Maybe you did, but I didn't understand it fully, but.
I haven't taken the class yet, so not quite.
Okay.
I just know that that's an expectation for the class.
Okay, okay.
One example has been, or one example that Dr. McMurrin already mentioned is, you know, putting together persuasive arguments for advocacy for different groups to the state and things like that. So generating
cool.
writing oriented towards addressing a particular problem.
Yeah, yeah, that's very cool. And I don't know the subject matter of those courses that you guys are teaching there in English, but I saw a friend post on social media the other day that he had entered a writing competition, and things like that could be a really cool problem. That doesn't even necessarily have to be a group work problem, but having students prepare something to submit to a writing competition could be a really motivating way to, and that hopefully they can still apply the content that you've been learning in that way. But
Jordan,
I had a course that I took. Oh, go ahead, Terry.
I was just going to say in the chat, Shauna also put an example.
Oh, I see that.
Having her students in the master's program actually design documents to support nonprofit organizations to address affordable housing. Awesome.
Wow, that is really cool. How did that go, Shauna?
It went really well. It was a fairly small class, just 8 students. And so 4 students worked with 5 counties to create a manual for different government, like municipal governments, to applying like grants and stuff that can help affordable housing programs. And then the other group worked with Habitat for Humanity to help with some of their onboarding documents.
That is awesome. And it sounds like it had some impact, if you know, at least it got them to think about things differently. So that's really cool.
And it gave them an opportunity to write for a client and get real world feedback from that client as well. So, yeah.
I love that idea. Do you think it could be done similarly in an online format?
Yeah, I do. So, I mean, it was kind of a hybrid course where, but it was like a synchronous course where it ended up that most of the students, they had the option to attend over Zoom or the option to attend in person. And it ended up that everyone kind of migrated to the Zoom option. And so, I mean, I can obviously see how, you know, it works with a synchronous option. And I think it could also work, you know, asynchronous format, but I think that And especially I think for master student, that can work well because I think they're probably a little more adept at, arranging their schedules, meeting with each other. Sometimes it is hard to have kind of that collaboration in an undergraduate class. There's sometimes I have students who will contact me like the night before a project and they're like, my group never reached out to me. And I'm like, well, did you reach out to them? And it's like, well, no. But so, I mean, I haven't encountered that issue with graduate students, but I do find that more with undergraduate students. Kind of the collaboration is difficult and there's more different levels of investment in the problem or the task that they're collaborating on.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And honestly, one of the areas that I find that, we as faculty have the hardest time applying these types of real problems is in these lower level courses where the undergraduate students are. A, because some of those students aren't as motivated to actually help the group solve it, but also, oh, I forgot B, hold on, I had a B. Also because they don't know enough of the content to be able to solve the problem possibly. But I honestly feel like although those two things make it more difficult, I feel like they make it even all the more reason to have those types of projects, right? Because difficult things are important too, just because they're difficult. And there are ways that we can try to minimize those, adverse effects of those types of projects. But anyway, so I guess one of the things I did want to bring up is that undergraduate courses should have problem-based learning too. Sometimes I feel like because we have larger class sizes, because the students are a little less experienced, they don't know as much of the content, we avoid those. But I feel like, honestly, that's why a lot of students drop out of math or hate math from the beginning, is because in these lower level classes, you're not applying anything hardly. You're just doing word problems and learning the arithmetic. But then you get into like the higher level classes and you're like, oh, this is awesome what I can do with math, And that should be what we teach them in the very beginning so that they actually care more about it, right? The motivation is key, and if we don't give them real problems to solve in the beginning, then it's hard for them to be motivated. Anyway, that's a different soapbox, but I think it's important to try to apply this in the lower level courses as well. So did anyone else, thank you, Carrie and Shauna, for sharing those. Those are really great ideas. Anyone else have a problem that they were thinking could be solved? An authentic problem could be solved in their online course? Okay, well, while you're thinking about that, I'll tell you about the one I put up here. So I taught Trailblazer Connections last fall. And it was difficult. I got thrown in there right before it started. And trying to create that community, as you said, is it Sonia? Sonia, that online community was difficult because they're all freshmen, they're all busy. They just were trying to get through the course kind of. And so one thing I wished I had, that now whereas we're redesigning the course with some of the faculty for that course, one of the things that I thought would be cool to try to get students involved in is creating more opportunities for community in their class while they're in the class, right? And so creating a student club for online students could be one of their assignments, right? Create a club for online students, and they can do that. Like the resources are there, they can create their own club. It's motivating to them because they are an online student, and it's also giving them skills for building community online. So, and that's kind of one of the purposes of Trailblazer Connections. Go ahead, Carrie.
I was just wanting to share a little bit of like I did my entire undergrad online years ago. I'm a non-traditional student. And for me, the program I was in was very useful, but I definitely felt like it was lacking in some areas. And one of the biggest areas was that community connection. Like I did an entire degree, got a great GPA, have a bachelor's piece of paper, but I afterwards didn't have any connections. I didn't really have connections to any of my teachers or the departments, or I had no idea what to do next with my degree. And part of that is because of the approach that the institution was using, where they were trying to help as many people like worldwide as they could. And so almost everything was asynchronous, because you did have students in classes who would be like in Africa or things like that, which was a great opportunity for them. But it's kind of nice when you can use a bit more synchronicity in these online courses because they do tend to be for more local students. You should always be aware of students who aren't local and doing these, but if it's a student, you know, who lives on campus and decided, well, I just want to do this one remote for whatever reason, definitely I felt like that lack of connection was the biggest difference for me. And that's part of why I'm doing an in-person master's degree program.
I get you. Yeah, it's a big hurdle. And I think one of the problems that we face in trying to solve that problem is that we're trying to solve it in the same ways that we would do it in person, right? And it just doesn't quite work the same way. So I think one of the things that can help, as you mentioned, Carrie, is to not be scared of the synchronous element. Now that doesn't, you can't, given the university's layout of how they label courses, if you have an asynchronous course, you can't require that they be there at a certain time every day or every week or whatever, right? So you have to work around that, but that doesn't mean that you can't have synchronous elements of the course, right? That doesn't mean that you can't have students meet in groups of 3 on their own time, which is how remote work works anyway, right? That's how we're preparing people for this remote world. But you just kind of have to schedule things on your own time and work it out, right? So yes, synchronous opportunities. So that's kind of what I was thinking about with the online club as a club for online students. And I honestly wonder, Carrie, what would have happened if one of your professors had come to you and say, hey, we've noticed that students aren't feeling this, sense of community in the online undergraduate program. As one of our assignments, we're going to try to solve that, and maybe it doesn't apply to every class, every type of coursework, but it's a real problem that students are recognizing. It's an authentic problem, and uniting students around those types of problems can be powerful. So I think you can use that experience, Carrie, as a powerful tool to change the way that you teach online and in person, but especially online. Thank you for sharing that. Terry, what's the link you shared here? Oh, I see. Okay. To work with learning designers on coming up with ideas. Oh, I can't hear you, Terry. You're muted. I get what you're saying though now.
Sorry, I hit the enter key early. I was just thinking, if you want to bounce ideas off, I still think our learning design team is one of the best kept secrets on campus, where you can bounce an idea off of a learning designer and maybe get some more ideas for how to use collaborative teams to increase the building of community in an online course, as well as what kind of problem-based learning might work in your particular course. So anyway, that's just one idea, but I did hit the enter key a little early. I was going to wait till you were done with that thought to say.
No, that was great timing. That's a good point, Terry. The reason teaching and learning are so complicated is because there's so many variables. Every student's different. There's not a one size fits all. I wish that there was one piece of technology that if you just plugged in all the variables that you're aware of, it would spit out the perfect learning approach and teaching approach. That'd be amazing. If anybody can come up with an AI that does that, it will make millions. But there's just too much difference in the audience, in the subject. So that's one of our roles here as learning designers and at Utah Tech Online, is to help you come up with ways to have more authentic problem-based learning opportunities in your online courses. So yeah, feel free to reach out to us through that link that Terry provided. Carrie, you say, my program was all pre-pandemic. I bet it's improved significantly since then because the difficulties have been made more present as more people have had to experience online learning. It's a good point. And honestly, there's still a long way to go. Honestly, there's a lot to be improved there, but that's a good point. Okay, so that being said, and thank you for giving those examples. Those were helpful to kind of situate what we've been talking about here. But so I want to share one more experience with you before we open up for last questions that hopefully will help you to see the power of authentic problem-based learning. That's more recent in my mind, so I'm a little more passionate about it right now than I might be otherwise, but can you guys see this? Okay, so this isn't a class technically, but we work with students here in our office. We have 7 students right now. 3 of them help help with your online classes as you're making them. They help us to, make pages look good and make things intuitive, make images for your courses, videos, all sorts of things. And they're really great. Sometimes I know as we teach these younger students, it can feel like they can't do anything on their own, or I have to tell them everything they need to do, and it can be frustrating. But if you give them a real problem to solve, boy, watch out. They can solve those problems. It's pretty impressive. So I've learned to never underestimate their abilities, because if you give them a good reason to apply those abilities, they will do it. So this is a group of 4 of our students. And 2 of them are software developers. They're computer science majors here on campus. And 2 of them are 3D designers and animators. And one of them just graduated. Tyson just graduated. Brindley's still in school here. And so what's the problem that we have put them on that is authentic and the center of their learning? It is creating online learning experiences for other students through virtual reality labs and simulations. So I work with them to make opportunities for a level of authentic, experiences for students. And I'll show you a video example of one of those that we're working on right now. But in trying to create authentic problem-based learning experiences for students, they are doing so themselves. So they sometimes work remote every once in a while. Some of them work from home. And so they do a lot of online. We use Zoom. Do any of you use Zoom or Microsoft Teams in your group? Raise your hand if you use Zoom to communicate with your team. You do over there in the English department, Shauna? That's cool. I've never heard anyone else on campus use it that way. Any of you use Microsoft Teams or Slack or anything else? You guys use Slack, Sonia? Teams?
Teams. We just so the whole advising team just like 2 weeks ago moved to Teams. We're not using Slack anymore. It's too expensive. That's what I say.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we use Zoom. We already have access to it, and it works pretty well that way. But yeah, Teams could work the same way. Anyway, a lot of us already do the online collaboration thing, and so that's what we've been doing. We some of them work remote every now and then. But we're building these experiences for virtual reality simulations for other students. And like I said, when you give them, hey, we're making this for this class. Right now we're working on a physics lab. So it's like, we're making this physics lab for this physics class. Like students will be taking this at some point. And then giving them kind of some direction there. They have been incredible. They've solved every problem I've thrown at them. And they have done it a lot of times without my direction or oversight. So they will Zoom message each other and they'll say, hey, I've got a problem here. Can we take a look at this? And then they'll do whatever they need to do, call each other over Zoom, or if they're in person, they'll come talk to each other, and then they'll figure it out and they solve it all. So it's just another example to me that when you give them problems that are true problems that actually need a solution, that they can create the solution for, and you're actually going to apply the solution, their best work comes out. So if there's any way that you can do that in your courses, especially your online courses, I think it helps to create that community that you talked about, Sonia and Carrie as well. I think it honestly does help to create that community, because you find that the limitations of asynchronous interaction make it difficult for you to solve that problem. So you give each other your phone numbers and you find ways to chat with each other, and so that you can better solve the problem if you really care about it, right? Another course that I took last semester, SE 3500, is an entrepreneurship course. And the whole point of the semester was to start a business, like to do all the upfront work to create a business. Tech entrepreneurship is the name of the course. And you could do it in groups. Most people did it in groups. And again, some of the best work I've seen came out of that. So I think it's hugely powerful to be able to do that. And I'll show you a video in just a second. While I'm pulling the video up of some of the things these students have made, I think you'll be impressed. I'm hoping you will, but I think it's good. I'm impressed with what they've come up with. But let me show you, or let me ask you this question here. So we already talked about this a little bit, but this is a picture of them having a meeting and working out how they're going to solve this problem. It's really, really cool to see. Is that? Yes. Okay. So I want to hear we've already kind of asked this question, but what are some ways going forward that you could improve your online learning or teaching experiences? What are some ways that you feel like coming away from this that you'll be able to have more authentic problem-based learning in your online teaching?
Something
Go ahead,
I
Brett.
might do is I really like the idea of applying a real world problem or situation. And so in communications, I guess that it depends on which class I'm teaching, whether it's public speaking, interpersonal communication. But even if I can't get someone in the community or a business in the community to give me one of their problems, maybe creating my own case study, right? They're always in the back of the book, and sometimes the ones in the back of the book, they're great, and sometimes, you know, the back of the textbook, they can feel maybe not authentic. But if you're able to go out and say, you know, kind of like the situation that Melissa was talking about, where they had real cases, you know, you're able to, if you can't get something like a real situation, you know, taking that situation and making it work for you. So that's probably something that I'll think about, is if I can't come up with any authentic problems, just searching for them in the local community and saying, hey class, like this is a situation that happened a year ago. What's something you would do in this situation based on what we learned? How would you, you know, how would you conduct yourself in this type of argument or situation? And that's probably something I'll look at doing, is if I can't think of a problem of my own, go look for one that's existed or is existing in the community or state or even, you know, world, right? And then apply that.
That's a good point. If you can't find one, make one. Don't cause problems. That's not what you were saying, Brett. You weren't saying create a problem.
I mean, I could, you know.
You're
Hey,
like,
so
we
for
don't
this
have
interpersonal,
anybody
we're going to bring in everybody.
You're nursing. Better infect somebody. Oh, wouldn't go that way, right?
But yeah, but I think that helps make it current, and it definitely shows that it's needed, right? And the solution may exist, and maybe you're helping them understand that, or maybe they are helping to develop that solution, which, you know, you can buy into that a lot more if you're a student. You're like, I'm part of the solution. That feels pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there are levels of good, better, and best in this, right? Like the optimum is that there isn't already a solution. So this is what I meant to pull up earlier. I think these are some good questions to ask yourself. And even if you get one of these as a yes, it's helpful, right? Any number above that is going to be even more helpful, but it doesn't always necessarily need to have all these be checked off, right? But is it current, right? Is this a problem that somebody solved 100 years ago, and so it's not really helpful, but it's good to at least know how they did it? Maybe, but I think it's helpful when it's a current problem, right? When it's applicable, it's relevant. Is it needed? Like, is solving it going to help anybody? Basically, is what that means, right? And if no, then maybe think about another possible problem that you could go with, right? Does the solution already exist? As we already talked, as you just mentioned, Brett, like, is there something already out there, or are they going to be creating something fresh new? And then does it apply? Obviously, does the content that they're learning, can it be applied in this problem that they're solving? Okay, I think asking those 4 questions can really help in determining how good and how authentic this problem being solved is going to be. Okay, well, I'm out of time, but while I'm pulling up this video, are there any questions or comments? Anything you guys learned? Any takeaways from this?
Jordan, I wanted to just bounce this off of my other colleagues and see if this applies or not. But teaching online, this is my first time teaching online, but what I've run into a problem with, and I don't know how to solve this necessarily. Some of my students, like I think Carrie, she was here, but she left. I was talking about graduating from my global college that offers a global university where you have people from all different areas of different countries participating. But I have a student or two that their second language is English. So when they're doing their papers, it's hard. They're translating it to English, but it's not, the grammar's not necessarily there. But you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. You want to give them a good grade. You know, their Turnitin scores are good, but yet the wording and how it's placed in there makes for a lot of grammatical errors. So I don't know if that's something that can be addressed online, or is that something that they would need to go to some kind of a grammar assistance or tutoring? They're excellent students. They're making great grades, but when you're reading the verbiage and their grammar, it's, I mean, I could take several points off for how sentence structure is done, but it's not their fault. It's based on the fact that English is their second language. Does anybody have any ideas or solutions on how we can address something like that from an online perspective?
Sonia does. Go ahead, Sonia.
Absolutely. As an academic advisor, if your students are UTech students, they can use services for in-person or online meeting with tutors. All tutoring sessions for English and math, writing, and conversation are at no cost to all UTech students. They can review their essays, writing, any assignments, get them ready for any exam as well at no cost. And it can be done in person, but also they can do online meetings as well. They can do small groups or one-on-one. It's a really great resource that UTech is offering.
Okay, that'll be great, because I can always post that in announcements that if they're having issues with their papers to reach out, because like I said, they're great students, but translating the grammar can sometimes be a little bit difficult, and the choices of words that they use.
Yeah, and I think you still have to, you still have to hold them to the same standard as everyone else so that they know, right? But I love that resource that you shared. Sonia, could you put that in the chat, maybe a link to that?
Absolutely. I'm going to find the link right now and share with all of you. And all students that are UTech students, no matter if they're doing online learning or in-person learning, they're very welcome to use the resources. And our tutors are doing an amazing jobs with them. We can see the progress as advisors.
That's great. Thank you. All right, here's the video I promised I'd show you guys real quick before I have to go. Can you guys see it okay? Okay, so this is what these students have made, the ones that I told you about earlier. This is a collaborative experience that can be done online with this virtual reality headset where students are working on a physics lab trying to figure out what angle this table has to be at to get the acceleration to match what it should be. And it's pretty cool because they can talk to each other, they can interact in this space together, and kind of solve this problem together, which is really cool to be able to do that in kind of a physical spatial way online. So it's been a cool solution that students themselves have helped come up with, and it's another opportunity, another way that we can have this kind of authentic learning in the online space. So I thought I'd share that with you, but there's two of them in there. I don't know if you can tell, but anyway, I think that's about time. I have to head out, and Terry, I appreciate the time, and I don't know if you have anything else you want to say before you wrap up, but I really appreciate everyone's participation, insight, and questions.
Thank you so much, Jordan. We appreciate you facilitating this workshop, and thank you to all of you for joining us in our discussion about authentic problem-based learning and assessment online. If you have any questions about using, assessment options or any questions about enhancing the online courses that you teach, feel free to contact a Utah Tech online learning designer. Just go to online.utahtech.edu, and there's an option for faculty to meet designers. They, again, maybe they're not such a best kept secret on campus, but it is really nice as a faculty member and to bounce ideas off a learning designer who has training in how to best design learning. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'll stay in the meeting room for another minute or two. I know Jordan has to run, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. But thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.